Hello and welcome. This is the After Credits podcast. Today's episode is going to be, as you can see in the title, Ahsoka episode 1 and 2. Today is the day of the premiere, and we've both rushed to watch it, and now we're going to review it for you. So, quickly, we're just going to do a spoiler free review portion at the start, and then we'll let you know when we go into spoilers. And then, yeah, but we will be reviewing both episodes, probably mixed in amongst each other. I doubt. We might have a bit of chronology to it, but it's probably just going to be a mix of both episodes. So yes, but yes, thank you for watching. I hope you liked the episode. But spoiler free. Why don't you take the reins, Brandon? Spoiler free.
Right, okay, so I think my initial thoughts are I definitely like it. I really like the vibe of it, just feels different from Mando and Andor for me, but it's a good feeling because it reminds me of Rebels, and that's my bread and butter. So it's like it takes me back to that, and Rebels hasn't been out since I want to say 2018, so that's like a long time to like be apart from that. So it was good to see characters like I'll spoil characters that's been in the trailers because I'm going to assume people are aware. People like Hera and Ahsoka, obviously, and Chopper. Like it's good to see those and Sabine. Like it's good to see these characters all together again. Um, I feel like they resemble the character as well. Obviously, it's a little bit of a. You're always going to have that part of you where you're like, oh, she doesn't quite resemble her, but she's doing a good enough job, so I'll give it to her, kind of thing. And maybe just over time I'll get used to it. Whereas Rosario Dawson for Ahsoka, I was kind of hooked from the start, so I guess
Right.
we'll just see as it goes. But overall, I did enjoy it. I think there's definitely weak points, but we can get into that when we go through the spoilers.
Yep.
Nothing too glaring for me. It's more just like okay, or I would rather do something else. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it, and I feel like people that like Ahsoka or Rebels or Clone Wars probably will get a kick out of it as well. I think. What about
Okay.
yourself?
It's probably a bit too soon to say, but what do you think about people who are not familiar with those other shows?
Um, it's tough. I think what they've done. I think what they do well is that they've introduced two new villains to everyone, and I think my prediction is right. I think they're going to be more of a driving force in this series rather than the eventual Thrawn. Which I think is good because it means everyone's kind of on the same page. Whereas like we don't know much about these characters, and we'll learn about them together. And when it comes to sort of like the history, I think they played it okay. They don't like go too deep into Thrawn because they mentioned Thrawn before, like in Mando season 3, and they mentioned Ezra and stuff, but again, it's not like the plot. It's more just a driving force for the characters, kind of thing. So I don't see it I don't see it. I don't think it's that bad. It kind of reminds you of just like think of episode 4, and when Obi-Wan's talking about Vader and stuff, you're like, oh, like because you don't know the history with them, but you're learning with them, and I think they do it well enough where it doesn't let people who haven't watched the shows leave them in the dark. Obviously, I don't know because I'm not. For example, we have a friend called Stuart who's not seen them, so it'd be good to talk to him about this sort of stuff if he can follow it well.
Right.
It's different for me because I have seen everything, but I don't know. I think they did an okay job, but I guess time will tell. I suppose with that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think we're on a pretty same wavelength then. A pretty
Lovely.
similar wavelength. I thought See, when you watch episodes back to back, I find it really hard to, even though it's the same day, because I just have a shit memory. But I find it hard to separate what happened in both episodes. But
Yeah.
uh, over the hour and a half that I've watched of Ahsoka today, uh, I would say generally positive, like strongly positive, but not like perfect. Obviously, I mean, I think I agree with you. The vibe is pretty good. I like the I like the trio that they've got going,
I
and
just
I
think
like.
the look as well, like the aesthetic of it, just feels like. If to me, it feels like what the sequels should feel like. It feels like post original
This
trilogy.
is
You know what I mean?
especially with regards to the villains they introduce, and we'll get into that
Yeah,
once we get into spoilers. But I would say the villains in this are giving me like vibes of what I wanted from The Force Awakens and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
that's the introduction I
yeah,
wanted for a villain, right?
100%.
So I would say that's a really strong point. I also think they've set up things probably not. Um, I don't even know what my point was there. They've set up things that I think are really good, like springboards into something really cool as well.
Mm.
I'm really excited for where the show's gonna go. I feel like these probably in hindsight might, fingers crossed, be some of the worst episodes, even though I have a fond memory, like a fond feeling of them.
Yeah.
I feel like these could easily be the weakest if they're promising something better, which it seems like they are.
Mm.
So
Just
yeah,
just setting the tone, and
yeah, and
just
I
yeah.
think you're right. Um, I think that's kind of what they're going for as well. That's the impression I got, is that they're a bit like course correct, and where they're like, this is probably what we should have got in the first place.
Yeah.
Obviously, not in the same context of, oh, the sequel should have been about Ahsoka, but just the general feel of how things are.
The
And
thing is, it doesn't feel like they're like, oh, fuck the sequels. It doesn't feel like that. You know what I mean? It just feels like they're just doing their
right,
thing. You know, it doesn't feel like they're course correcting like Last Jedi did The Force Awakens. Like that was clearly him trying to course correct. And then episode 9 does it again. This doesn't
yep.
feel like that at all to me. It just feels like its own story that relates to the galaxy overall kind of thing. So it's
And
like,
I'll say the makeup and stuff like that on everyone, because the thing is as well, the makeup on there, they're quite upfront,
hit or
like even in
miss. Yeah, it's hit
even
or
in
miss for
Star
some things.
Wars, even in the original Star Wars, the makeup's incredible, but a lot of the scene, like when I think of the other green, like Twi'lek,
Yeah.
um, it's in Jabba's palace, and she's in the
Mm.
dark and stuff like that. So you kind of get away with a lot of stuff in Jabba's palace because it's dark
Yeah.
and all that, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of grimy, but there's not really too much of that in this episode. It's quite like bright
Mm-hmm.
atmospheres and stuff they're in, bright areas they're in. So like, I I really like the way they look
Yeah.
based on these two episodes. I especially the main trio of Ahsoka and Sabine and Hera. I
Yeah.
think they look incredible. Uh, but I do think maybe some of, I don't know if this is just because I'm a heretic and I watched this on my phone because I was in bed, but I'm gonna watch it again on TV because I think I need to. But some of the visual effects looked like TV effects, and it's a bit of a shame because I was like, because some of the effects are incredible, and some of them I'm a bit like, ah, but
Right.
we'll get into that. But I would say very strong starting point. I'm very excited to see where it goes, and
Yeah.
I don't think I'm happy with the promises they're starting to make, but I'm not disappointed so far. But we've been burned before recently with Secret Invasion because those were some pretty good episodes at the start as well.
Yeah.
So obviously it can go off the end, but I'm being optimistic. This is Dave and John, and
Mm.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, man.
But any final spoiler-free remarks?
Um, I would just recommend it highly. I think, yeah, if you can go
Yes,
out and see it,
excellent.
if you've not seen it already, for sure.
So this is your spoiler warning. We are now talking about spoilers. So if you have not seen episode 1 and 2 of Ahsoka, go and watch them now, and then come back. Okay. So spoilers. This isn't a spoiler, but I'm just going to start because this is something that stuck with me. Is I really fucking like the music in this series so far. The
Yeah,
music was great, and the music's by Kevin Kiner, who did the Clone Wars and Rebels scores.
outstanding. That's so good
So
because I like that because it just again it takes you back. It's like as I said earlier, it takes you back to that sort of time with like rebels and stuff, and it just helps because like they had the Ezra and Sabine theme show up constantly. I'm like, oh yes, that takes me back
yep,
because that helps me now assign those actors to the character now. Because it's the
yep.
same with Ahsoka because they brought her theme back for when she was in Mando, so it's like it really does help. And Star Wars has always been good for that. Um, I
And
mean, music's always been difficult hits. So
Kevin Kiner, he's been doing Clone Wars since well, if you go watch last week's episode, put a little time card. If you watch last week's episode, we actually, that was one of my highlights of the really naff, well, not really naff, but kind of naff Clone Wars film,
mhm.
is that I really enjoyed the music
Yeah,
more than I remember enjoying it from the show. But that could just be me not remembering the show. But I really like the music in this as well. I like the theme. I like the end credits. They're a bit. The end credits are a bit Game of Thrones credits for me.
mm,
I think that's kind of the trendy thing to do at the moment, but I like them.
yeah.
And
It's not Boba Fett anyway. Boba Fett's still S tier for credits.
yeah. Yeah. But if we just, well, we'll maybe just make our way through the episode a little bit. Starting with the title crawl,
Yeah,
eh? Black
nice and
black
red.
and, well, a
Yeah,
red title crawl. Yeah,
I liked it.
I liked it too. And
Because I
I
haven't
don't
done
know.
that in ages. I haven't done that since episode 9, I don't think. So
Yeah,
that's mad.
and I'm kind of glad, and I think that's probably why it feels a bit more like not like we said, it doesn't feel like a replacement, but it feels more like oh, this is what we should have brought, this is
Yeah.
what we kind of should have done, and I think that's kind of, I wouldn't say that's a dig like you say at the prequels. It's more just of like trying to fulfill that. It'd be
Mhm.
like this is more in line with maybe where Star Wars should have been, rather than like you don't have title credits in Boba Fett 'cause that's not really a continuation. That's a spin-off,
Yeah.
right? And it seems like if they're not doing it in Mando, they're not doing it in Boba, they're not doing it in Andor. Those are all spin-offs.
Yeah.
But if they're doing it in this, that seems more like it's a bit like, right, this is the main, this is the main
Mhm.
through line now then
Well,
of Star
yeah.
Wars.
It's. I feel like it's also used to just help set the what's happened, what's going on. Because there's a lot of people, like,
Yeah,
again, like, people don't know who Thrawn is, people don't know what's going on with bloody Ezra and Ahsoka. Like, people probably don't even know who Ahsoka is, but so it's like, what's going on? You know, it's a completely new sort of timeline because it's set in between 6 and 7, so it's a bit of
yeah.
a hazy zone, you know. So yeah, no, I really liked it. I really liked the credits. I think it was a
But
really good touch.
yeah, and then we get a really good introduction with the two villains.
Yeah,
I
man.
can't remember their names honestly, but
We'll get them up
I like
on
them a lot.
IMDb. I know
Especially
Balin's one of them.
the guy is it. He just recently died, didn't he? Is his
Ray
name Ray or
Stevenson.
something? Ray Stevenson, yeah.
Bro,
He's
he
really good.
fits the freaking world, man. We talk about this all the time, where certain actors don't fit. For example, Lizzo and Jack Black just don't really fit the
And
world of Star Wars.
actually,
You
when
know?
we were talking about when we did a watch party recently of Revenge of the Sith, and one of the points I brought up was maybe if we'd grown up, we grew up with the prequels, but if we hadn't grown up with the prequels, maybe Sam Jackson would be
Yeah,
that for us.
yeah,
I don't know if he's that, but you could argue that in the same way that Jack Black is a bit jarring, or
yeah,
Christopher Lloyd. But yeah, I mean, part of it could be that I'm not actually too familiar with Ray Stevenson in the first place, but
yeah. He's not been in
regardless,
too many massive stuff, I don't think.
he's
Um,
cracked, mate. He's great.
he fits the world. He's like he reminds me of not completely reminds me of, but like Luthen, what's his name from Andor?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
like that actor just fits
yeah.
the vibe, and he so does. Like I'm
But
already
mate,
interested.
yeah, he's already more interesting than the Knights of Ren, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he's had
yeah.
like, and that's within the first like 10
2
minutes or so.
minutes, yeah, like
Yeah,
his first scene. Like,
it's
yup,
mad.
I'm into this guy. Like,
Yeah.
just his
Uh,
look though, just his look in general is cool as well. Like
I
he kind of
think
gives
the
me a
thing
Count Dooku vibe, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and he's got a really good presence,
Yeah.
and part of that's his stature, I think, as well, because there's a scene where he walks down a hallway and he's massive, he's huge,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, this feels like a monster, like not like a monster, but it feels a bit like a Michael Myers sort of thing, in the sense of like he's just above everyone else,
Aye.
and he's just like mowing through them sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I really like his vibe as well, how he's kind of like I really like his line. I think this jump right to the end of episode 2,
Mhm.
but where he has a line where he's like, "Oh, it'll be a shame to kill another Jedi. There's not much of us left. There's
Yeah.
not many of us left."
Yeah.
And I like that because it's a bit like, well, I like the kind of where exactly is he on the spectrum of like good and evil,
Hmm.
and who's his kind of allegiance to, right?
Yeah.
I like that, and I
I
think
do
that's done
kind of
really
see
well.
him as like Dooku because it's like a fallen Jedi, you know. And it's not that they necessarily hate the Jedi. It's just not their. From what I get from this guy anyway, it's just not the way that he thought they were going. Like he doesn't agree with their new traditions or whatever. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe he's just more loyal to Thrawn for some reason, which he clearly is.
Mm.
But um, yeah, that's
And
what kind of makes like the secret down the line.
even the fact he has a Padawan, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I
And
mean,
she
her,
would be too young to be around
I don't.
prequels, right?
Well,
Surely.
if she's the same age as Luke, well, she's yeah, she her age is a little hard to pin down, right?
I would. She looks
I
about
would
young
say
20s.
I would say he's probably picked her up after the purge,
Yeah, yeah. Or
unless
like
she was
Cal
a
Castis or
very
something, you know.
unless she was like a youngling during the purge, like very young,
She'd have to be
like
freaking
4,
minor.
right?
Yeah, she'd have to be something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's that. I mean, I'm interested. That's the thing. I'm really curious to know
yeah.
what. So the actress is 2 years older than us. So 26.
The alternative is if he's survived the purge and she's younger than the purge, maybe that's his daughter. That's not the vibe I
Maybe.
get, but just
Yeah, I don't
thinking
get the
about
vibe either,
it,
but it's possible.
yeah, I get more of a Padawan. But I like even just the title is Master and Apprentice,
Yeah.
and you think obviously, well, obviously it applies to them, but it also applies to Ahsoka and Sabine,
Now,
which
okay,
is
this is a thing, man. I don't I like it in concept, but it's just weird because Sabine's not force sensitive, right? And I don't want her to be because that's just so out of the blue for me. She never really showed any signs of being a Jedi. She wielded the dark saber in Rebels. That's about it. But then again, I was only for like 3 episodes, and then she gave it to Bo.
I suppose you do
So,
get a line from David Tennant's character,
which
the
I
robot,
love that he's
which is
back. That's
he's
sick.
fantastic in this. Yeah, he's
That's a
great.
really good droid. Yeah.
He's really charismatic actually as
He
well
is,
for
but
a
he's
droid.
also like he's charismatic, but he's also he kind of gives off a mentor kind of figure as well, which just makes sense because he like
Well,
helped the younglings build their lightsabers, you know. So that's really
this is the thing. He's the perfect droid to bring along to restart a Jedi Order, right?
awesome. Yeah, man. I think yeah, sick. We could David Tennant
So
as well. That's so cool.
if they kill David Tennant's character, I will actually cry just for the
Nah,
fact that we're not getting. I
we
need
need him
a
for the Jedi
we need
Academy.
him. We need him for the Academy. Yeah, yeah.
Add him to the team.
Just
Just
don't give him to Luke's Academy because
yeah, don't get
yeah,
yeah,
because if
yeah,
Kylo
yeah.
Ren kills David Tennant, that's it. I'm done.
That's it.
Uh, but yeah, I really liked his character as well. And okay, so I haven't finished Rebels, but I know where everyone ends up, obviously
Yeah.
because this, but also I've like watched videos on it and stuff. Um, but I don't know. I don't mind the Sabine thing as much, but that's probably just because I haven't watched the whole show.
Hmm.
The other thing is, I
How
guess
do you
David
feel?
Tennant's
Oh,
character
sorry, go
does
on.
have a line where he's like, "Oh, you're basically the worst Jedi I've ever seen," but and I was like, "Oh, I thought there was gonna be a point to that," and he was just like, "No, you're just the worst Force sensitive I've ever seen,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "All right," and I guess that's maybe like tying into a bit of the Last Jedi message, where it's like, "Oh, anyone can actually kind of, or like a Jedi can kind of come from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have the right tutor, I guess. I don't know. So like, I don't know if it's a thing of everyone's a little bit, or there's like a whole spectrum, and she's just very low on the spectrum, but enough that Ahsoka can work with it
Yeah.
as a mentor. But I like at least that they're setting up. I like the kind of implied history between them, even from what we've not seen since Rebels, the end of
Yeah,
Rebels,
because
where it's
they didn't
like,
really have a relationship at all in Rebels, so
yeah, and you kind of have that like, oh, they've obviously tried this before and it hasn't worked out, and you
hmm
don't need to like bash us across the head with it. You just like mention it a couple times, and then you can go, oh, but they're getting back in the saddle now, and then
yeah,
that's all you need to do. And I think that was really done. That was done really naturally, kind of quite yeah, quite naturally came about.
yeah.
But
Well, how do you feel about Ahsoka, who claims she's not a Jedi, training someone as a Padawan,
so
which is more of a Jedi term,
I
you know what I mean?
I was thinking about this part
Who's not
through
force
the
sensitive
episode.
as well. Like she's a bloody bounty hunter essentially,
Well,
you know.
I was thinking about this during the episode, and I was thinking, why would she not train Grogu? But she refused to train Grogu because she's like, I see what Jedi can become, and I'm not going to train any more Jedi.
But
And
specifically
then
because Grogu is attached,
specifically
right?
because
That
he's
was like a
attached.
big
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a fair enough point.
But she's attached to like Ezra and Hera and stuff, so it's like that's attachment. So
Yeah, I guess maybe because Grogu's still a baby, she knows that he's never going to get over that anytime soon.
yeah,
Whereas at least Sabina's an adult,
yeah,
she can maybe get past those attachments. Or obviously Ahsoka's walked away from the Order. Maybe those attachments aren't strictly. I don't know.
yeah.
But we're getting 6 episodes in the show, right? Or is it eight?
I think it's eight.
Eight. Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
so.
Eight. So
Thank God.
yeah, thank God. uh, but yeah, our episode two is a bit shorter, right?
It was, yeah. It was. I'm kind of honestly, I would have just merged them into one and just have a big premiere. Like they didn't. I don't think they needed to bloody
Yep.
cut it. Yeah, it didn't feel necessary. Um,
So
right, I'm gonna bring up a negative just to get it out of the way. I'm getting fucking sick.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, man. It's happening all the time, and I'm like, stop it, man. It's so annoying. Only because we've seen it happen to one of the best Jedi, and it killed them. So we're like,
Like in
why is it
seconds.
everyone else? We can
Like
tank it, you know?
he died. Like he was stabbed and died within like 3 minutes. There
Yeah.
was no hope, and it's like this is supposed to be the other thing is as well, right? The original trilogy is supposed to be like the fall of like the Great Republic.
Mhm.
So you would assume that like some technology has like become less available, or like healing packs and stuff like that. Those
Yeah.
were never in really the
Fucking
original
back to
trilogy.
tanks.
Yeah,
No.
you have back to tanks and that's it, right? But like
Yeah.
now it seems like they can just heal a lightsaber wound overnight.
It's like, mate, you realize like all your organs just got fucking
Well,
incinerated.
I was thinking that. I was like, surely she's missing like ribs and shit now.
You
Like,
know?
what? I mean, the thing is, that
Yeah.
annoys me as well is it was kind of unnecessary because one, she just healed in like a day anyway. But
Mhm.
two, I feel like you could have just done what you did with um, Finn in The Force Awakens, where like the
Ah,
lightsaber digs into her shoulder or something like
yeah.
that, or digs into her side, and she has like a chunk missing, but it's like flesh.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not anything like in the gubbins of your
Yeah.
anatomy.
Or like when like Kyle like freaking shredded his freaking spine or something, it's like it's not he didn't like cut deep, but like he did enough damage to take him out,
Yeah,
like something like that. I'm just getting sick of the stabbing because it happened with Reva, and I'm not going to be biased,
and not only yeah,
because I don't
not only
like
did it
Reva, I
happen
like
with Reva,
Sabine.
it happened with fucking the Grand Inquisitor as well, like twice in
Grand
that show.
Inquisitor twice, but
Yeah,
the Kylo Ren, I know he got healed, but it happened to him too.
yeah.
So it's like,
Between stabbing folk with lightsabers and like Jedi Survivor refusing to give you like some limbs being cut off from people,
yeah.
lightsabers are losing their edge,
I
I
know
think.
that's the thing because it just takes it away because it's like what's the freaking like
Which
what? How do you kill someone now? Do you just have to? They have to chop their head
lop
off?
off their
Like
head.
is
Yeah, you have
that
to slice. There's no point in stabbing anymore. You have to slice.
like, like
The
Christ, man?
the
Like
other thing, staying on the topic of lightsabers, I going into this, I didn't like the look of the orange ones from the trailers.
right?
I think they're actually okay. I don't
Yeah,
think they're
honestly,
great, but I think they're
I didn't
okay.
really, they
But
didn't really stick out
I
to me.
think
I
there
thought,
was a few scenes with Ahsoka's white ones where I was a bit like, they could look better.
hmm.
They could look like they don't look bad per se, but they could look better. And I'm not getting. I don't know, like because even when you go back to the originals, like they're a bit clunky, right? But
Yeah,
I'd say those even have something that the new ones don't.
I know exactly what you mean. And I can't put my finger on it, but I don't think the sequel, like since Episode 7, the lightsabers have looked great. Like they're fine, they're passable, but to me, they've
Yeah,
not. There's something off about them, and I really can't put my finger on what. Because we just watched Revenge of the Sith not long ago, and that's for me, that's peak look for lightsabers. Like they look sick. It's the perfect fitness,
I think it's
height,
to do. Yeah, I think it's to
sound.
do with the hue, maybe like the way the hue is on the lightsaber, where it's like
Yeah,
a white core and the hue, the colored part is around it. Whereas in these ones, it seems a bit like the beam itself is colored.
maybe it's hard for Ahsoka because it is a white saber, so it just looks like a pole, rather than a beam of light
I
kind of
guess. I
thing.
think it's kind of yeah. I know what you mean, but I think it's the kind of diffusive bit outside the actual like beam. It's the beams look very sharp now,
Right?
whereas I think it could be just be a relic of like them filming on film and using the reflective tape on the originals. That
Yeah.
maybe it was just like overexposed and you get this diffusive whatever, but like on purpose, and it just looks that way on film. And maybe because they're not using film anymore. Well, I guess digital they did for the prequels, right? But I
Hmm.
would say the prequel lightsabers look better than yeah, you're right. Probably anything we've gotten recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but that's a nitpick, really,
Aye.
because
But
that
that's
goes for
that
anything.
was that was my main negative with the whole thing was the whole Sabine getting stabbed. Just because I felt it was unnecessary because we know she's not dead, so there's no point in cutting the episode there because we all know she's the main character almost. So I would have rather just got her injured. What I do appreciate is the lassie beating her because I like my villains when they win. So
And they're
like
competent, yeah.
I don't want Kylo Ren
Because
losing on his
I'll be
first
honest,
fight. Like,
yeah, because I'll be honest. When I saw the Inquisitor in the second episode, and
mm.
Ahsoka runs up to him, I was like, the last Inquisitor we saw Ahsoka look at, I think he died in one swipe, right?
I got like
Like,
I shouldn't have a lightsaber on her.
yeah,
She
he
forget.
just got fucking decapitated. So
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
uh, so yeah, I felt like I thought that was gonna happen and it didn't, and I was like, well, okay. And I think that is they purposefully didn't reveal anything about that character,
Yeah,
and I think that's gonna be like I don't know if it's gonna be a plot twist or if it's gonna be someone we know
yeah.
or whatever, but
People think it's Barris from Clone
you
Wars, but
know,
I don't get that body vibe. I don't. That it doesn't look like Barris. I know it's like literally a fucking masked body in that, but I don't. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a guy.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I guess that makes sense to tie it to Ahsoka,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It would.
like, yeah, I don't really have a preference on who it is. It could just even be a nameless Inquisitor, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not
yeah,
even that bothered. But
yeah.
if it's someone cool, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's Reva. Maybe maybe it's Reva.
Reva, she's back.
And maybe Ahsoka will kill her once and for all. Yeah,
Christ.
but no, yeah, we get a good, and I think they're. I like the way they're expanding the lore as well, especially in this
Yeah.
episode.
Mm. Yeah.
Because we get a nice hallway scene with Ray Stevenson's character
We
in the
do.
beginning of
It's
episode one as
becoming a
well.
thing these days.
But I like that the woman they rescue, that is it Elspeth, Morgan Elspeth or something, Morgoth Elspeth,
The
something
I
like that.
the Night Sister that we found
Yes,
out. That's kind
yeah,
of
and
mad.
she's a night sister, and I'm like, yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, more of that.
Yeah.
Because now, mate, that's cool though. Because now, like in Survivor, we've got a new school happening with Cal Kestis and Merrin, who's
Yeah.
a night sister. And then you've got, so there's going to be that side of it where presumably their students are going to have like mixed Jedi and Night Sister abilities, which would be cool.
Probably. Yeah.
But now, like the bad guys might have that on the Ahsoka front.
Yeah.
So
It was just
yeah,
good to tie it in as well because
yeah,
I won't lie. Like in Mando, I didn't really care about this character at all. But now I'm like, okay,
fair
that's
enough. Yeah,
something.
100%.
Like,
Yeah,
got something there. Like she feels more of a bigger threat now. Because I remember when
and even
Ahsoka first fought her, we're like, okay, come on, Ahsoka, like, white freaking beat her ass. But then we were like, all right, okay, she's actually got some
yeah,
skills. So
and I think there is a line that Ahsoka has about her as well when she's talking to David Tennant's character, where he's like, "How did you get this information?" He's like, "Oh well, I didn't follow the Jedi code,
yeah,
sort of thing, to
yeah,
get the information." So she is definitely walking the line, right?
yeah,
So that could tie into like why she's taking on Sabine or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I like I think it's just it it's nice to get a bit of variety because obviously they're using orange lightsabers. There's the Inquisitor with the red lightsaber, but which is more like conventional.
Mhm.
But Ahsoka's using like white lightsabers, but then we're gonna have the classic, probably green with Sabine, and then
Yeah.
Ezra when he comes into it as well. But
Mhm.
I could imagine this show kind of ending with Ezra and Thrawn, right? Rather than them being
That's
in the
yeah.
show.
That's the vibe I'm getting. Yeah. I don't know because they've really built up from to be like the Thanos, you know. So it's like I do want him in the show, but I just feel like we're not going to get as much as we hope. For Ezra, I think it's going to be like last minute
Right.
kind of thing. Um, what was
But
this? Oh, go on.
well, I was going to say, but another expansion to the lore is, boy, they're going to a new galaxy,
Mm,
which has never like it's probably happened in comics. I definitely has happened in comics,
yeah,
but never happened in the movie because like the whole Star Wars thing happens in one galaxy, right? That's the point. Is that hyperspeed takes place in like the one galaxy,
right.
and it's the lanes throughout that galaxy. But um, they're going to a new galaxy, which I think is a really nice but convenient way to be like, no one's going to be involved in the sequel stuff because they're going to be in a totally
Yeah.
different galaxy, right? And
They
there's
did the same with Cal.
it's
They're like,
exactly
oh,
the same
it's a
gal.
secret
Yeah,
planet.
imagine imagine your films are so fucking bad. Your sequel films are so fucking bad that everyone who wants to write in the intermediate period now has to throw their protagonists away to another galaxy
It's mad.
that
It's
can't be
mad.
reached just to tell stories anymore.
Honestly,
So at least that might be like a freeing thing for this, where
yeah.
they can kind of do what they want without restriction of, well, where's Ahsoka? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like where's Ahsoka during the sequels, right?
Yeah,
Which if that's what you have to do, I'm down for it.
yeah,
I'd rather have good Ahsoka than tying it to. Honestly, I don't care if they tie it to the sequels.
yeah.
Like it could be good, and they could do what they did for the prequels with this, but I'm honestly that's not a priority for me. If it was me, I'd just wipe the slate. To be honest, I know they're not gonna, but
The thing is, we've got like 30 years to mess with here, you know, so it's like a lot can happen in that. Like, Clone Wars was only 3 years, you know, so it's like we have a lot of time to, develop lore and stuff during that time in between
yeah,
6 and 7, you know, so I think Mandel did a good job of that too. Mandel's got the benefit of kind of being a small story though. Well, it used to be, whereas
yeah.
Ahsoka already feels kind of large, but it makes sense.
In a good way. Yeah,
Um,
it feels small but large, right? Because it feels like quite tight knit. I guess the same way
yeah,
Rebels did, where you're
mm,
gonna follow the one cell. You're following like
the
the
Ghost
main,
Crew.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Ghost Crew. Uh, but yeah, and even you get they are doing a little bit of like nice fan service, I guess, as well, or some more subtle fan service as well.
Yeah.
Where obviously they're bringing in the Rebels ones, and they're very overt fan service because they're bringing them all back. But
Hmm.
well, fan service in the sense that they're all coming back, but not in the sense of they're actually using them. They're not like meaningless fan service, but
Hmm. Hmm.
like they're on the ship from episode 6 where they like have the holo table and stuff. They're doing a meeting in there, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. And there's like a Mon Calamari and whatever. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like fair enough. Uh,
Exactly. Well, what I did love, and this is a nice little callback to when we went to Star Wars Celebration, is the mural they had, and we've seen that in person, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really sick to know. Like we've been there. Like, that's cool. And I do really love they use the Rebels art style as well. It's a nice little Easter egg for people
Yeah.
that like that, you know. And it's a good way to do it because like it's a freaking art piece, you know. Um, also, same scene, Clancy Brown. I didn't know he was going to be in this show.
You know, he's reprising his role though from Rebels. He
uh,
voiced that character in Rebels.
the mayor or something. Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of
So
thought so.
but he's now also in he was in Mandalorian as well, right? So he's been in Star Wars twice now.
Well, what did he do? Mandalorian.
He was the big red guy demon looking thing in the Prison Break episode in season 1
I didn't know
with Bill
that.
Burr and stuff. He's the big guy that gets mashed by the
Shoot.
door.
Andy Buddy voices Savage Operas from Clone Wars.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
about. He's a man.
Mr. Krabs
I
is
love
getting about,
Clancy
bro.
Brown,
Yeah.
man. So I'm
He's yeah.
happy with it, man. Again, he
Everything
fits the world. He fits the
yeah.
world too. So
Maybe it's just old men with like cool
pretty
beards that fit
much
Star
old
Wars.
white men.
Yeah, old white men. Don't take that out of context. Don't take that out of context.
just
Rosario's great in it as well,
oh
and so
mate.
Sabine.
The
You
thing is,
know,
like, I don't even have any comments for Ahsoka because it's just like she's already proven to be like she's the
yeah.
one, you know.
Well,
So
one thing I have been thinking is when I was watching the episode, there is a bit, and this is I don't know if it's a complaint yet. It could be. There is quite a bit of just walking about and
hmm,
standing about and lingering on shots, and that's fine. And I don't have a problem with maybe a slower paced show like Andor was.
right.
But there was a kind of weird thing where I thought maybe they went a little too far in places, but
Like kind of
obviously,
taking their time too much, kind of thing
yeah,
to
a little bit.
do stuff.
But it's hard to judge when you're only watching 2 episodes as well, because once we have the context of all the episodes, if it feels too
Yeah,
long, then it's a problem. But you know, if it's the introduction and it's taking it slow, I'm perfectly happy to let that be the way it
yeah.
is.
If I was to make an assumption, this is Dave Filoni's like first show to himself, directing wise. So, because before he's only directed the one Ahsoka episode from season 2,
Well,
and
he
then
only
he did
directed
the
episode
Luke
1 so
Skywalker.
far. There was a different. It was
Oh, was it? Oh, was it
Steph.
different? Oh, was it different next time?
Was it Steph Green or something like that
Oh,
had
I didn't
directed the
notice.
second episode.
Oh, shoot.
She directed an episode of Book of Boba Fett as well.
Oh, interesting, interesting. I did
So,
notice the slow pace from the first one, though,
yep.
as you were saying. But like, I was gonna mention like well, at least he's definitely more involved in this show compared to the others, I believe, because obviously John Favreau and him, I feel like had equal footing, and did I think John Favreau did more episodes as well. Whereas this, it feels like this is Dave's project,
Yeah, I got that
and
vibe as
he's
well.
never had that before in live action. So, except from his 2 episodes that he's directed, which is the Ahsoka season 2 and the Boba Fett Luke and Grogu episode, and they're very fast paced because there's a lot of stuff to cover. You know what I mean? Whereas in this show, it's like he can take his time, but maybe he's not properly found his pacing yet. But I
Yep.
mean, I'm not gonna. That's such a minor complaint, though. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna
The
linger
other
on
thing
that.
is, obviously, a lot of that is coming into like the Kurosawa influence and stuff like that, where they are taking
Yeah,
like samurai influence, and
yeah,
they're having long shots on purpose purely to get across that inspiration,
mhm,
which they've been doing in Mando the whole time anyway.
yeah,
But yeah, the other thing is Ahsoka feels quite. I know she's kind of like this at her age anyway, but I think it was just because we watched her be so kind of like arrogant and kind of like playful when she's like 14 in the Clone Wars movie, and that's the last thing we watched.
yeah.
And now we've skipped like literally the week after, skipped right to her when she's like 40.
I think
Um,
she's mid 50s now.
oh, 50, well, 50s.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's very Jedi now, like very stoic though.
yeah,
And I think that, I don't know, like obviously it's where she is, and obviously there's gonna be development over the season, but she felt really closed off in these episodes, I thought. Like very, very stoic. And I think that's probably as well to balance out because Sabine's kind of such a big personality and Hera's quite big as well
yeah,
that you can't just have three. So I like that dynamic. It was a bit to begin with I was a bit like this is maybe a bit too slow, a bit too stoic. But then when they get together as a three, I think that really works.
yeah. It's a good trio. It really is.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean speaking of Hera as well, that's Ewan McGregor's wife,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think she
Yeah.
does a good enough job.
I think she's doing a
I
pretty good job
wasn't
too.
sold instantly to begin with. I didn't get the sort of motherly vibe from Hera, which she usually gives off, because she's essentially Sabine's adopted mum. Like
Well,
she kind of
speaking
raised
of,
her, you know.
where's her fucking kid as well? Where's the stinky green kid with
Yeah,
her?
where's
Yeah,
Jason? We know he's
where's
in it.
Jason?
I've seen the Lego sets. He's somewhere. So he's in the show. And he's not got green hair, so they've retconned that.
I'm
So
quite glad about that, to be
yeah,
honest.
the guy would look ugly. That would look ugly. When a little kid, because it makes no sense. Like, why is the kid got green one? Because he got green skin. Like,
It
that's
reminded me of
stupid.
someone like Ed, Ed and Eddie or something like that. Just like a weird.
Yeah, like weird, the Cartoon Network sort of looking character. Yeah, I really like her. I like her banter with Chopper during the scene in the ship as well. That kind of reminisced from Rebels too. They did Chopper so well. Like I like Chopper in small doses though, because he can get really annoying. Um, but they did him well here, where he's like, trying to throw the tracker on and stuff, and he's
I
like
could
posing
see a
and
lot.
stuff.
Like, obviously, he's from Rebels, so they have him
Yeah,
in, but I could see people who are not familiar with Rebels being like, what the fuck is this droid?
yeah. Like,
Like,
why's he got arms?
why? Like, I can very much see Stuart being like, what the fuck is this droid? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
this is not good. But, I mean, I'm fine with Chopper, I guess. And again, in small doses.
In small doses, yeah. Because I hate when like BB-8 are controlling ATSTs and stuff. I hate that, and Chopper did that constantly. So didn't he
Right.
give me that? Like don't give me that stuff. One thing I do want to point out: these two episodes did a better job of like archaeology than bloody Indiana Jones did in their movie, in their film. I freaking swear to God, man. I was
To be
watching, I was
fair,
like, this is even better than Dial of
it was
Destiny.
it was a little on the nose as well, I thought, the way it
Yeah,
popped out and stuff.
yeah,
But like
yeah.
it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're right. It felt a little bit like the little thing. It felt honestly when it popped up, I was like, "Oh, Apple of Eden,"
Yeah, that,
and
honestly, it does look like that. Yeah.
and then I was like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
nah." And then I was like, "Oh, the thing from Treasure Planet," and I was like, "Oh, like
I mean, it's kind of similar to
just
that. To be
golden,
fair,
yeah,
it's
just
kind of similar to that.
golden balls that are puzzles." Like,
Yeah, that you know
yeah.
that's actually a good shit. That's like extremely similar to that actually
Wait,
because they
that's a
twist
map
it
as well,
about and
right?
everything. Yeah, and it turns into
Yeah.
a map. That's
Well,
damn. There you go.
we've caught
Freaking
you right, but
caught you do for if you know where you watch your
Treasure Planet's
freaking.
a good film. You're allowed to rip it off. You're allowed to rip it off. Well, I guess it's Treasure Island, right? But like, yeah.
Yeah,
But
true,
I
true.
will say as well, practical effects in general, the ones that are practical look pretty phenomenal.
I
Like
think
the
the
Loth
the
cat,
cat, yeah, the love cat looks sick. Yeah, it looked
it
really
looks
good.
too real almost.
Yeah,
Where I'm like, ah,
which
dang,
is
like
mad because in Mando season one, I think
they
it
were
was
CG,
it was
yeah,
CG, and it looked passable, but this looked really freaking good, man.
yeah.
Yeah, obviously, like practical is hard because you do need to put in that extra effort to make it look legit. But when you do that, it
Do you
works.
think the volume is being used less on this show than in Mandalorian?
Volume. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I get that vibe. I get more of a Kenobi vibe off it than a
Yeah.
Mando vibe in terms of the spaces they're in.
Hmm.
Like when Sabine in her little, or I guess is that Ezra's like tower room sort of thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Hmm.
That's very like dense and all that. And I get they can do that in the volume as well, but it just felt different
If it
from
is the volume, they've made it
they
look a
cracked
bit
it.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
look a bit better. There wasn't very like open spaces either, for the most part. It felt quite lived in for the most part. So whereas Mando, like you're on the desert and stuff like that for a lot of it, so you can kind of get away with doing the volume there. But Obi-Wan, it looked terrible in Obi-Wan. No, I think the volume was more of a detriment to Obi-Wan than it was a benefit to be to be honest, because I feel like it made it look too basic, bland, but it's what it is. Obi-Wan's in the past.
I think
Ahsoka's
yeah,
in the
that's it.
middle.
That's I don't know if it's specifically the volume, but I would say in general that's probably a good point. Is that the aesthetic of Kenobi, and I get they're on Tatooine, but they do go to that kind of Hong Kong inspired planet. But in
Mm-hmm.
general, it felt very plain,
Yeah,
very vanilla. This
yeah,
feels quite obviously it's coming off the back of Rebels, so it's kind of
mm-hmm.
a bit brighter and a bit more vivid.
Yeah,
But just even like we were saying, the little map thing and the way it like projects, and there's like different types of projections as well. We've
mm-hmm.
seen a few times, and I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, like, and the holograms look really good in this. I thought
yeah,
in
mm-hmm.
general,
Yeah,
because sometimes you can be like, oh, they're a bit too clean, or they're a bit too, you know,
yeah,
they're a bit too there. But these ones feel very much like, oh yeah, this is a flat project, like a flat projection to us sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it feels very
Yeah.
cohesive, I guess.
No, I agree. I agree. Um, because I was going to say they go to Le Fall, which is a planet from Rebels, and Bloody Corellia, which was cool to see. Bloody Han
Yes,
Solo's home planet
Han
looks
Solo's home
freaking
planet,
so different now because
and the
probably
Falcons. Yeah,
yeah. So it was nice to see that get a bit cleaned up. Because back then it was
well,
freaking junkyard, you know.
cleaned
But
up in a sense, right?
yeah, it looks a little bit better.
Cleaned up, but still corrupt.
Maybe the sun was out that day. So,
Yeah.
I kind of like that though. I love that in Star Wars where there's still like corruption and loyalists and stuff
Yes.
behind the scenes. I do like stuff like
I even like
that.
that they doubt it in the scene. They're like, no, no, why would these people ever be loyal? And it's like, well, some people are just fucking idiots. Like well, not idiots, but some people are just that taken by
Yeah.
the the empire. They're just that taken by the system that
Hmm.
even with change, they're still loyal, even
Yeah.
when it doesn't seem like there's a proper reason. And I'm glad that they didn't have to explain that. They were just like, yep, these people are loyal. Bang bang, they're dead. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it still happens.
Hmm.
And I think that was a really like fluid way to do, and a really like succinct way to do some world building as well.
Yeah.
Because you could spell it out, right? You could make a whole season out of that, which I guess is kind of that would be like the follow on from Andor, right? Would be like or like
Hmm.
the parallel to Andor is that you have the kind of Empire remnants.
Exactly.
But yeah. And then what do you think? So what do you think about the lightsaber fights in general?
I think they're fine. I've noticed with the sort of Disney era that they tend to have a they're close in. Like the camera's close to them. They don't give enough time for them to breathe. Like zoom out. Let's see them. You know, because
Yeah,
you rarely see a full body shot of them fighting. You know,
which
like
I think
when you watch Duel of the Fates, the whole fight's that. You know, when you see
yeah,
Revenge
yeah,
of the Sith, the whole fight's that. You know, so I
yeah,
do
that's a good
like
point.
seeing that athleticism from them both.
And
I think the benefit with them here is that these are two younger women, so so athletic as well. So like they should be able to do more than let's say Ray Stevenson. You know, I mean, I assume he's
yeah,
going to be more of like a bulky fighter when
he's
he
going to be
gets the
more of a
chance.
Vader, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I feel like they are going to have another fight. I feel like it's in the trailer, but
Oh yeah.
I assume that one to be a bit more a bit better.
I
Because
feel like
yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be like the best fight of the show because it's like it's just to establish this new villain and that she's better, and that's
yeah,
all I want. You know, just give me that. I thought it
I,
was fine; it was passable.
I do think they've been because we had the one with the Inquisitor and Ahsoka as well, right?
Yeah, which was fine as well. Yeah,
I
just
think they're both fine, but I think probably that's it. I think you made a good observation that about the camera work, but
mm-hmm.
I think as well if you're taking inspiration from like samurai films, I think they're pretty famous for their like wider shots, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
combat and stuff. So like I'm a bit surprised that's not wiggled its way in, but I definitely share that idea
mm-hmm.
that the fights they're very vanilla, I think, so far.
Because has there been like a really good lightsaber fight since Disney took over? I really don't think there has been.
I liked the vibe they were going for with the sequels, at least in the Force Awakens. I liked the kind of more
Like in the
brutal, less
snow.
technique. Yeah, I liked that it was literally just him like battering down. Obviously not when it turned
Yeah,
around, but initially when he came out the woods and he was just like battering down. I like that.
I would agree that's the
But
best one out of that era for sure.
it's not a
I,
good fight either, though.
I think
Really,
the environment helps though as well.
100%. But I
Yeah, it's not
think
a good fight because it's literally him just swinging at them, and the other two are just defenseless because they don't know how
yeah,
to wield the saber. You know? So,
until they do.
until they do, when the
Yeah.
plot calls for it.
Yep.
So,
But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Like I mean, I guess you could say episode 8, the throne room.
I don't know. The more I've seen too
But
many breakdown videos of
I've
people
seen the
like
breakdowns
breaking that
too.
apart,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
ruined it for me.
But to be fair, even Nolan's guilty of some bad
Yeah,
fight scene choreography. But
yeah,
the yeah, I think I just wanted a bit more from them. I don't know. I feel like I want that kind of. I don't so much want the prequel thing back because it's very floaty, right? And it's very like showy.
yeah.
And I think that probably would fit Ahsoka a bit better, but maybe not the others. But I
So
would maybe like to see that
yeah, the thing is,
interact then.
it was designed to be like that because that was the prime Jedi era. You know, so
Yeah,
they wanted
but
to show them look like
Ahsoka will be
superheroes. You know,
a product of that, right?
yeah,
Rather
she could
than
be. Yeah,
so I'd have
um,
liked to seen that mix of maybe the more brutal sequel. I say brutal, it's not really brutal, but what they were trying to go for, of a more brutal lightsaber style that they kind of hid with Ray Stevenson's character.
mm.
But maybe how that interacts with the more floaty old prequel style. And I don't really think we got that in either of the fights. Like I think the Inquisitor fight was probably better.
I like
But
the. It was an interesting thing because they got the robot involved, and I like the bit where she's kind of using it, like she stabbed it, and she's using it
yeah,
as a sort of like shield kind of thing. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I like that
Just
too.
stuff like that's fine.
But
Um,
yeah, it felt I don't know. I feel like they need to really up that a bit
yeah,
because I don't even think they feel obviously like the old men fights in original trilogy are a whole different bag, but those feel obviously of their time, but probably
yeah.
I'd rather have those than this.
It's very rare when again, since the Disney era, when they ignite their lightsabers, and I'm like, whoa,
Oh,
oh, it's a good,
oh,
it's gonna go down. Like I've not had that feeling since Revenge of the Sith. You know what I mean? Or take it out Clone Wars because it's definitely happened in there, and Rebels, like that's between Ahsoka and Vader. That's probably the last time I felt that, like Ahsoka Vader, or Maul Obi-Wan in Rebels. That's probably the last time I felt that.
yes, yeah.
And that's probably one of my favorite scenes ever in Star Wars. I don't know if people might think that's a hot take, but I'll give it crap. Anyway,
But did you think when they ignited the second blade on the Inquisitor lightsaber, did you think they were going to helicopter it there? I was waiting for it. I was like,
oh,
don't you
I
dare.
would have freaking. I hate that. I hate that.
Same.
I hate it. That's part of the lore. To be fair, they only did it in one episode. But that one episode's like, like,
But
because
every time they do it now, I'm worried.
they didn't do it in Jedi Survivor or anything like that, right? I don't think so.
uh, mm, uh,
I don't remember.
you could, I don't know. They did spin it definitely, but it wasn't like it wasn't flying,
I like
right?
this. I like the spin, just not the floating about like
Yeah,
the helicopter style. But yeah, I don't know. I think these fights weren't supposed to be like, oh, the fight for the show, just a sort of introduction to like, okay, here's these characters, here's their skill
yeah.
level,
Well, I think
kind
as
of thing.
well. I think partly because the rest of the episode, or like especially when Ahsoka's in it, it does feel kind of samurai. But I didn't really
Yeah,
get the samurai vibe off of her fights. I'd
right.
have liked maybe a bit more of a Ghost of Tsushima style, like
Hmm.
more of a calm, collected kind of fight.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to her and Balin because they're definitely going to fight. So,
Well, we've seen it in the trailer.
well, yeah, well, like a little
Mhm.
bit, yeah. So, I'm like we said, we imagine he's more bulky and slow, powerful, and she's going to be more fast paced. So that's a nice little
I'm really
dynamic there.
excited for Ahsoka and him to meet. Actually, I really want to see what happens there
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
general because
Yeah.
he
And how much does he
obviously.
know? Because does he know Anakin? I'm assuming so. So
Yes, I think he definitely knew Anakin. I think he even knows her. I don't think he probably
oh,
like met all that often, but like I think he definitely knows who she is.
right.
And I think the line at the end of the second episode that I brought up before about him being like, "Oh, it's a shame to kill another Jedi." Like I really liked that line. That was a really good line.
And the thing is, like, they both left the order, you know. So it's like they
Yeah,
relate. They
and
relate in a way.
he might
He
even
pinned that on her, like, oh, you left the order as well. Like,
yeah,
you're not free out there, you know. Um,
that
yeah,
might
man. I think the big takeaway is I'm so invested in these villains, and they haven't even done much, but like I'm so into it, you know. So it just shows.
well. Let's hope Dave doesn't take wholly after George and then kill them as soon as they get interesting.
Ah, no,
But
yeah, I know. And the thing is, it's going to be difficult for Ray Stevenson though, because obviously, right, the guy's
well,
dead, so
that
it's like
Yeah, I was going to bring
Ideally,
that
he
up earlier.
does kind of die in the show just to make it more easy going forward. But if they don't, then it's gonna be a
Just
tricky
get,
situation.
just put Clancy Brown in his. Just
I
give
think
Clancy Brown a fifth role in Star Wars. But
classic.
no, but like, yeah, I really like him. It's a shame that obviously he's a guy. Like, this is just Star Wars. There's more important
Yeah,
things. But like,
yeah,
it's a
of
shame that
course.
he's not around to continue that character if they wanted to.
It's also just like 'cause, like based on his IMDb, he's not been in crazy stuff before, but just for him as well to see people acknowledge him in the show, like
Yeah,
it's just a shame that he wasn't able to see that. It's just like not comparing to Heath Ledger, but like
yeah,
it's a similar situation where it's like, oh, you've
true.
got that peak role in your career, and now you weren't even able to kind of see it,
Mhm.
But
But
it
they
is a
did have a
shame.
like. Was it the first episode? They had a little message about like for Ray at the very end.
For what?
For
Oh yeah,
Ray.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a to her friend Ray or something like that.
Yeah,
Said, yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Ahsoka did mention Anakin as well. She mentioned him. That was nice. During
that's always good. That's always good stuff.
love that, love that. That's already more than the sequels did. so, so that's, episode one has already done more. Yeah, I love that. I love that because of course you have to mention him, man. Like he's like I'm just sick of the Disney era not acknowledging him, and I'm not even like he's one of my favorite characters, but I'm not gonna hype. I'm not the type of guy to defend him constantly, but he's literally the main character of the freaking saga. So it's like,
Yeah,
why is he not brought up as often? I swear Yoda gets brought up more. It's just like that's my boy though, but it's just so random. Like it's like
yeah.
they're afraid to bring him up. They bring up Vader, but not Anakin. Um, but yeah, no, it's always nice to hear that as well. Um, I'm just scrolling through the episode just to see what else kind of popped up. I
Well, I
don't
was
know.
gonna say I really like the dynamic the villains have as well, and I like that there's three as well because you kind of have the well at the moment. Obviously, our rebels team's gonna get fuller and fuller,
Yeah.
but initially I like the three and three. I
Mm-hmm.
like the good three, and you have the other three. And but I like that. I don't know if this is something that maybe I haven't thought about this, so I might prove myself wrong as I talk about it. But I feel like this is something maybe missing from the sequels as well that I think is present in the prequels, but maybe to a lesser degree than I'm going to say, is that I like when they introduce different factions, but they have to work together to get to like a common goal and stuff like that. And I think that works really well here because obviously on the good side, you've kind of got Ahsoka who's now decided her main priority is going to get Thrawn,
Yeah.
and then she's trying to get the Rebels band back together. But they're not exactly seeing eye to eye at the moment, or they
Mm-hmm.
weren't. They're kind of getting there now. But even Hera's just like chalked up with like Republic stuff. But on the villain side, like there's no real like once they get Thrawn, depending on their motivations, there's no real reason for them to be best pals, right? They
Yeah.
just have the same common goal at the moment. And I really like the way they interact because they're like breaking this girl out of prison, and then you obviously have the reveal that she's a Night Sister, and then the line at the end as well, the exchange again, the it would be a shame to kill the Jedi, and she's like, oh, sentimental, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, what's his line back? I've forgotten now.
Okay, I'll
Oh,
find
he
it.
says like just a shame or something. Oh, I can't remember. Or truth. Does he not just say it's the truth? Like true. It's just truth or something like
I've
that.
got it right here.
Um, but even like that, and it's nice to you know what is fucking nice. It's nice for the Jedi to be fucking acknowledged in the galaxy for once. Because for some reason nobody knows who these fuckers are by the time the sequels come around.
Yeah.
Who's Luke Skywalker?
I
I thought he
know.
was a
It's
legend. Like that
not been
sounds
that
cool.
long, guys. Like
You
come
know what I
on.
mean? But like in this one, it's like, oh, Anakin Skywalker. Oh, he wasn't just like a myth. He was a real guy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was a real fucking guy.
He was the
Like,
freaking hero of the Clone Wars. Of course, like, he went
yeah,
to countless planets and villages and saved them. Of course, people know about him. You know what I mean? And then again, it wasn't that long ago. It's
yeah,
like Ahsoka's literally like she's lived it. So from a child to an adult. So yeah, it's silly when they do stuff like that. I get it's a big galaxy and it's like rumors and myths and stuff. But as a viewer, it's kind of hard to relate
problem
to
is,
that.
it's all about relative size, right? Because even though the galaxy's big, it's hyper connected. So
Yeah,
like, it's smaller than it seems spatially. Everything's more connected than it seems. So
Mm.
like stories are going to interact much more often than you would think for a galaxy-wide thing in our context. So like it doesn't
Yeah.
even really make sense. Like it kind of does, but you would have to do some legwork to make it make sense. So it's just
Mm.
it's not fun to think about either that like your main character from the original series just isn't remembered. So it's nice to
Oh.
just be like, yeah, we're not dealing with dumb shit like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like people are aware of the fucking lore of the thing we're watching. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I even like because we had this with Secret Invasion and spoilers for Secret Invasion is that Nick Fury's not Nick Fury for most of that show, and then he gets his like, "Oh, I'm back, bitches," and he puts on his eye patch, but then he doesn't actually do anything because it's Emilia Clarke. But
That's what you did at the start of the series.
that's what you get here is you get Sabine cutting off her hair, putting on her Mandalorian armor, and being like,
Yeah.
"Shit, I'm ready for business. This is the character that
Yeah.
I am, and this is the one that you know and love, and now I'm her." It's taken 2 episodes, and now she's there, and now we can
Yeah.
watch her for the next 6, as opposed to let's watch someone who is played by the same actor but has very little resemblance to the person we know, which can work depending on the story you're telling, but it didn't
Mm.
work in Secret Invasion. And then in the last episode, you go, "Oh well, now he's got his eye patch on. He's back to Nick Fury," and then he does fuck all anyway. And it's
Yeah.
like this is how you do that. This is how you do that.
Yeah.
Because as well, you can argue that well time's passed in Marvel or whatever, and Nick Fury's not the same guy, and the blip had a big impact. But we're like 6 years after, like Rebels or some shit. Well, we're
Yeah. Good
years
chunk. Yeah.
after Rebels, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Like probably 10 years after now at this point, maybe.
Could be.
Because this is after Return of the Jedi by a
Well,
bit,
like
right?
if it would depend how old Hera's son is, then like that would kind of sum it up. So if we see him, we'll get a good estimation like how long are we
Well, I think because this is
thinking.
this is around about this is after Mando, right? And Mando was like two,
Well,
three
yeah,
years after. No, that was 6 years after
6.
Jedi, right?
Guess so.
So like we're at least 12 years into like after A New Hope at this point.
Yeah.
So like yeah, like I forgot my point there, trying to do maths in my head, but simple maths in my head, um, but yeah, I think their world building was really done. I think just a lot of stuff was done really quite like ironically because we said before is that it was quite slow the first episode, but I think that was more of a stylistic choice. I think
The thing is, I'm not even. I'm not
mad
even
at it.
too bothered that it was slow. It was just. I just noticed it. You know.
Yeah, but I think that in some sense that like there was slow parts, but there was also parts where I think they'd done really well to get across a point very quickly and succinctly, where you're not dwelling on it, but it's giving you enough to grasp where you are in the galaxy,
Yeah.
when you are in the galaxy, and what the fallout of the Empire is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I actually really like the. This is such like a such a nothing point. I feel like I need to say it. I really like Sabine's longer hair. I thought that like because she doesn't
yeah,
typically have that kind of hair, but I get why they cut it. But I was a fan
I think it's
because
a shame
it
that
didn't look fake because it definitely is. I believe.
yeah,
Um,
I think it's a shame that when she cut her hair, like the orange didn't stay at least a little bit
right.
because
Yeah.
she obviously she has the purple and then the orange at the tips, but then she cuts it all off and it's just pure purple. And I would have liked
Yeah.
maybe obviously it might have looked dumber when it had longer hair if the orange had went further up, but
Hmm.
I would have liked just like tinges of maybe it would have looked like frosted tips and it would have looked horrible, but like
The
maybe
thing
it would have looked
is, the character is known to dye her hair constantly, so she might even
I suppose.
have a change in the show. So who knows? But
But
yeah, no,
I
I think all the characters look great. I think they all look good. Like the armor as well. Like it's the same armor from the show, like identical. So that's cool that they've done that as well.
yeah, I think well she's made some modifications, but obviously that's to be expected because
Yeah,
she's
yeah, of course.
like that. But yeah, I don't know. I really like the I like it. I like it. I think the more I've talked about it, the more I'm actually liking what we've seen.
Yeah, because the one, yeah, I feel like I have as well. Like, because when it ended, I was like, oh. But now the more I've kind of like talked about how I feel about it, I do feel more positive about it.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it was good. It was
yeah,
good. Like it's like
yeah.
it
This isn't an
is
echo
right.
chamber. This isn't an echo chamber. This is true. Yeah. The
I'm not
speaking of,
denial.
I really like some of the shots in this was really good as well. I don't think it
Yeah.
all looked great, but like definitely the when they get in the ship and it kind of mirrors that final shot from like the epilogue of Rebels.
Mm,
I really like
yeah.
that shot when you see the ship through like the kind of domed door,
Right.
like the domed room door. I really like that shot. That was really nice. Um,
Yeah.
but I think as well, like Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this again on my TV because I feel like watching on my phone. I can't really give it credit because it looked good, but
You did
it
the same
looks
for
clean.
Kenobi. You watched Kenobi on your phone at first as well.
It's not as dirty as Mandalorian, but that's obviously because the planets they're visiting as well.
Which
Because
I like as well, because it's a different vibe, you know? Like, I like the
yeah,
Western tone for this. Keep the samurai tone for this, you know? Like, I like that. The gangster tone for Boba Fett. Like, that's what they do at Marvel back, like, in the prime, how every movie was kind of their own genre,
yeah,
you know? I really
and
like that for Star Wars, too.
I really like that no one's really made dumb decisions so far.
That's a
They're
good
all
point,
pretty
yeah.
competent.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they make, like, they. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, yeah.
because one in particular I'm thinking of is like I really liked the part with because it's a good display of where Hera's at right now and how competent she is.
Hmm.
Is when she's like that big Super Star Destroyer hyperdrive. Where's that going? Because we're not building anything that big. I like that where she was like, "What the fuck is that? We're not doing that."
It's like, you don't have
And he's like,
clearance to know. And she's like, I'm a general.
"Yeah." She's like,
I'm
"Transform me around."
authorizing
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, that was
I like
good.
that was a good way to like get across how like competent she is.
Yeah, and again, for people who
Oh,
don't know her, that's a good sort of introduction to who she is. You know what I mean? So that's
yeah,
it. Quick. That's the thing. That's the thing. I think Sabine got put across very well here. I think Hera did. They're really the only two characters you need to kind of learn about right now for people who haven't watched Rebels, and I think they both came across really well.
well,
We've got a lot of screen time as well. I wasn't expecting Hera to get that much screen time, to be honest. I thought she was going to be more of a sort of cameo character.
right.
I'm really glad that she is like a third part. You know, do like that. But yeah, anything else you want to bring up?
I did have a point. It'll come to me.
Come.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Come. All right, that's content, Brandon.
What do you think about the sort of I don't know what she'd call it, but she used the sort of witch
Oh,
magic and made that map globe thing. And in the trailers, we kind of thought this world between worlds. I'm kind of glad it's not. So
I think it still could be
it
connected
still could be
because
connected.
she
It's
does drop the
similar
line. She
imagery.
drops time before space.
Ah,
He's sending messages across time. It could be that, or it could be in my mind. This is the nerd. This is the astrophysics nerd in me being
there
like,
we go.
galaxies are like kiloparsecs across,
Yeah.
but they're megaparsecs apart.
So you're
So,
saying like a message he sent could have been
but a
months
message.
ago, kind of
What I'm
thing.
saying is that the time taken to get from that galaxy to this galaxy, obviously it depends on how close they want to be. But if they're doing it in realistic terms, how close galaxies are,
Yeah.
he'd have had to send that message like hundreds of thousands of years ago for them to reach it.
Right.
In terms of light speed, but obviously, I think transmission in Star Wars is kind of taken to be faster than light
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
guess
they
that
learn to
goes
have
in.
like virtual calls, you know.
Yeah.
So
So well, yeah,
good
exactly.
Wi-Fi,
So
man. Good Wi-Fi.
that depends, but the time thing, they definitely drop they because the thing is right. The normal way to say that is space and time, but they drop time and space, and
Hmm.
I thought there was more emphasis on the time than the space. So I don't
Maybe.
know if there's going to be some like I think that could be connected to the world between worlds, but it also could just be something else, and you're looking into it too much. But
Maybe.
I'm not worried about that too much.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
But mm, any last points?
I'm just like scrolling past this stuff. I guess like what are you kind of looking forward to going forward? I guess like from what itself. Like what's the kind of main? I guess like we've talked about the villains. Like we're really intrigued by those two.
Yep.
I
I
want to get the point. It's not just Ray Stevenson. It's like it's the girl as well. I'm very interested in both, but it's because they are linked clearly, in a way. Like they even dropped the master and apprentice sort of line. I
yeah.
even like how the droid said, "Oh, I recognize his lightsaber. Only he built. I remember him building that." And he was like, "I don't remember her one." So she clearly wasn't around for to build her
That's
lightsaber
true.
at that
That's
time.
true. Yeah. Okay.
So again, she could have been a youngin, but and just not build her lightsaber. But
But
who knows?
again, so we had mentioned last week about people surviving Order 66.
Hmm.
Uh, I can kind of buy that this guy would survive Order. He gives me a bit Jaro Tapal vibes as well. He's just hulking,
Ooh, that's good.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where I'm like,
I'm interested to hear the story though, like why and how they survived and stuff. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to that.
And I think, especially because I think you touched on it earlier, especially because he's left the Order,
Mm-hmm.
or after the Purge, he was forced out of it, and he's kind of taken his own route now.
Yeah,
I want to see that interaction with, like you say, Ahsoka leaving the Order before the Purge.
because I don't get
Um,
the vibe that they're Sith per se. You know,
no,
I feel
nah,
like they're
no, no, no.
their own thing, and that's why they're not went for the red lightsaber. Like they've got a unique sort of look
Yeah,
to them.
I feel like there could be obviously dark side influence, but I
Yeah,
don't
of
think it's
course.
too like
We've seen them choke people out, so, so it's,
but
for
yeah, not in the
sure.
same way, which is good because I
Yeah.
like that, and it's a nice way to just flesh it out a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
and I like the way they're going about it. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited. Honestly, I'm excited for more of that. I'd like some because I think this is part as well. Obviously, in hindsight, The Mandalorian has kind of been a springboard for Disney's Star Wars TV show and the Dave Filoni film eventually.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like that to begin with. But it is now, and I think this is kind of going to be another springboard as well. And I'm okay with that, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would like the pace they've been setting for world building in these episodes. I want to see that continue into the future because I really want to flesh this out. Especially, I don't know what context they're going to go to this new galaxy. Because if they're just going to go, oh, we have contact with this new galaxy, and basically all that's going to happen is that Ezra and Thrawn come to them, or vice versa, and then you just have the rest of the story play out in the other galaxy. Like,
Yeah.
we don't know the scope of how much we're going to see in that galaxy, or how different it's going to be, or how things work. Because, um, we've never seen another galaxy in Star Wars before,
Yeah.
and they could just pull anything out of a hat. So I'm kind of that does worry me a bit, but it's Dave and John.
That's the
It's
thing.
in good
Like,
hands.
if anyone's going to do it, I trust people like them to kind of make the right decisions and stuff.
And
You
I think in general that's probably a highlight that new galaxy thing because I didn't expect that at all
know. Mm.
coming into this.
Makes
I
sense,
wouldn't
I
have thought
suppose. Like it
it
explains
does,
why they've been gone and why they
but
haven't
the other
been
it
tracking
was
this
left vague enough in Rebels to be like, oh, they just went really far away, and like you could
to the
argue it was
outer rim or
from
something. You know, like
the
oh,
outer
it's
realm, yeah, like the outer
middle of
rim, yeah,
space or something.
or
Yeah,
they have the what's there's another word for it as well, like a further out part, is there not? Like for
the outer rim, though.
well, there's the outer rim, right? That's part of the galaxy, but like there's also the kind of hidden bits or whatever, or there's
Oh right.
like where the like not Exegol, but like a parallel to that that's kind of
Yeah,
hidden
I'll
word. I can't remember what it's called, but like I thought it was going to be more like that rather than oh they've just pissed off to another galaxy.
like unknown regions or something.
The unknown regions, yeah. I thought it was going to be more that, and I mean I guess that the unknown regions could be just a placeholder for a different galaxy, but like I don't know who's aware that there's more galaxies in Star Wars,
Mm,
or
yeah.
like how frequent, because it seems to me like travel between galaxies is very infrequent. If not, it basically doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is them just introducing that. But yeah, I don't know. I like that. It's going somewhere at least, and it's
Yeah.
going somewhere nice.
For
But
sure.
like yeah, I think so. My worries going forward are kind of thing you touched on earlier as well is like Chopper like piloting fucking AT-ATs or shit like that. Like
Yeah.
I think based on what they've set so far, I'd like them to kind of avoid doing dumb shit like that. As fun as it might be for Dave
Yeah.
Filoni to kind of do that because he's been doing that in Rebels, I really
You,
think that
you can get away with it in animation, but in live action, it's a bit stupid. You know.
yeah,
You know. So
I really hope they just keep away for that and just keep on the kind of Mandalorian train.
yeah.
But I'm really excited to see. Honestly, even if Thrawn and Ezra are only in this at the very end as like a precursor to what comes next, honestly, I'll be happy with that because I'm a bit more optimistic about the other villains in the show now, and I feel like they can carry. I feel like they can help carry that show leading
Absolutely.
up to Thanos. Thanos, fucking Thrawn.
From
But
how
yeah,
mad is it? Like Thanos is like defined of like a villain like category. You know, like oh he's the Thanos of that show. Like it's mad, but it's essentially just means like oh it's the villain that they're building up to for that very end, and
yeah.
that's what we're assuming is going to be the Filoni movie. And mate, imagine like a Filoni movie budget bloody
Cal
version of
Kestis,
this man.
Ahsoka Tano.
Oh,
Oh, mate,
Grogu,
so good.
Grogu.
Honestly, mate, and if even if it's not an Ahsoka, but mate, can you imagine if fucking Cameron Monaghan was in Ahsoka? Met
I'd be
Ahsoka
mad.
at some point.
I'd be mad.
Fuck, man.
I'd be
Fuck.
mad.
If Cal Kestis meets Luke Skywalker, I am gonna die. I'm gonna die.
That's bad.
But
That's bad.
yeah, so general thoughts. Honestly, coming into this, I was a bit like, yeah, those were a solid episodes, but I couldn't actually think of like a specific reason why. But now that
Yeah,
we've talked about it, I'm like, I'm a lot more sure that I like these episodes. Like as you said.
yeah. Because I honestly, I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, I don't know what you're going to be thinking. I don't know if you're going to come in negative or positive. Like, I really wasn't sure. I have no idea what Robert's going to come up with because he's a wild card. So
At this point, I don't give a fuck.
no,
He doesn't watch these episodes.
he's the biggest Ahsoka stan. So like, I don't know. You might either give it too much leeway or criticize it. So I'm very interested to see what he thinks because he loves Rebels as well. In his opinion, Rebels is the peak of Star Wars. So um, yeah, they should be getting him back soon. So hopefully we'll be getting
Yeah.
his thoughts soon. You're looking at the channel now; it's just us two, but it's what it's just life's been getting in the way.
But I'll
Um,
bounce the question back to you then. What are you looking forward to, or what worries you going forward based on what you've seen? Maybe.
Looking forward to obviously we know Anakin's in the show at some point. I'm buzzing for that. Whether it's a Force Ghost or a flashback or World Between Worlds. I'm not going to judge the concept yet, but just the idea of seeing him back could be cool. Especially Kim and Ahsoka, the first time in live action. That's never been done, so it's going to be interesting to see either Rosario Dawson or a possible younger actress with Anakin, Hayden Christensen. That's going to be a really cool image
Mm.
to have. Like you said, I'm very excited for these villains. Honestly, I pretty much went in thinking I was going to like Ray Stevenson because I too typically like those stoic characters like that. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for that. Honestly, just because there's 8 episodes and they're essentially trying to find this map, right? How many episodes can you really go until you find the
Well,
map?
well,
You
because
know?
this so we'd had this discussion about Mando 3, right, as well,
Mm-hmm.
where obviously in the end it maybe didn't work out quite as well as we'd hoped. But especially at the very beginning, I thought that the majority of that season, and I think this was a pretty common idea amongst fans, was
Mm.
that at least half of that season was going to be dedicated to them getting to Mandalore and him bathing in the waters. And that
Yeah,
happened the next episode.
yeah,
Like all happened.
yeah.
So it's really hard for me to judge based on that, like previous experience, to be like, oh, how fast are they going to go?
In this instance, I kind of want them to get to the point though. Like, I don't want them to just have side missions, because they could easily go through that where it's like, oh, we need to go to this planet to get some information, kind of like Corellia, but that's like I think they tied that in fairly well to
Yeah.
the main plot. I don't want them to go to like fish women, frog women, like they need to do stuff like that, man. Just make use of the time you've got and just
Yeah.
make them all bangers. Um, yeah, like I really don't want any of that sort of stuff. I'd rather just get to the point.
And
Um,
it feels like so far that's kind of where it's going, which is
yeah.
good. I
Mhm.
don't get the impression that the next episode's going to be like, and this could totally age like milk, but I don't get the impression that the next episode's going to be like, oh, like, we need to find a MacGuffin to find the next MacGuffin,
the
and like,
It has been
oh,
released. This could be 35 minutes, so it's gonna be pretty sure it's
okay.
a shorter episode.
So at least if it is filler, it's going to be short filler.
Yeah, but
But
yeah. So I don't know. I'm just kind of optimistic for the whole show. To be honest, it's really.
so
I'm
obviously,
not as hyped as I thought it would be, but I honestly was going in with like crazy expectations. So
right.
yeah, I'm not
W-
going to blame the show for that, but
What do you
I'm
think
happy to
about?
get right out.
Because obviously there's this. So they've released 2 episodes at the beginning, and they don't really do that for Star Wars shows. The other thing
Well,
is that this
Andor to
episode,
put free out.
yeah, I guess. Um, but they've aired this episode earlier than they usually do, right?
Yeah, that's a weird. I don't know why they did that. That's a bit
So, because
random.
I think it's usually midnight in America, like on Eastern time, and oh no, what like Pacific
Yeah,
time, sorry. So
yeah.
it's usually midnight Pacific time, so it comes out around about 8 a.m. in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
usually.
Yeah,
But this time it came out like 2 a.m. in the UK.
yeah.
So I don't know if they were just trialing, like maybe if we premiere it at the end of the day, people will watch it after their work or something.
Is this
But
it's gonna be a weekly thing, or is this for the premiere though?
I don't know. I don't see why they would just change it, but you could be right.
Maybe because it was 2 episodes and like, all right, let's give them more time to watch it, kind of thing, rather than stay up till two
Maybe.
a.m. to.
But
I don't know.
obviously, there's the argument that, well, this series finishes the week before Loki, and it means that there's no gap in their programming.
Yeah.
But do you think there's also a story reason to put these out in two, or do you think they could have got away with just releasing them
I,
one and one?
honestly, when episode one ended, I kind of thought like, yeah, people would have been pissed if it ended that way because people know she's not dead. So it's just a stupid cliffhanger to have, like Sabine getting stabbed. Whereas episode two's ending, it's like, okay, the group's together, they know their mission, let's go. That's kind of what I was saying. I think they should just merge the two episodes together and have a big long
Right.
premiere episode rather
The other thing
than
is,
splitting apart.
this is complete conjecture, but it could be that that was the original plan, and then they tested it with audiences, and they were like, "No, we hate that week-long
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
We're not doing that." So they were just like mash them together. I don't know. It could be that. It could not
Yeah,
be.
I
But
think it's more satisfying with the
I
two
think you're right.
episodes for sure. It's just like Andor. Like Andor episode one isn't the most intriguing thing going. Neither is episode two, but three is. But you need one and two to build up three. So having them
Yeah.
the three released at the same time is kind of ideal. So
But
yeah.
any final remarks?
Hmm. No, I think I made my
Speak now or
point.
forever hold your
Yeah.
peace.
Oh, we have next week.
Back next
Um.
week. I
nah, I
I
think.
just like having Star Wars on the horizon. I think every week.
Yeah, I made my points. It's
I
yeah.
like living for Wednesdays.
I know, right? Bloody Wednesdays as well. First day of work for me as well. Like what the is what it is.
But well, one thing that's intriguing me going forward as well is how this is going to be received by people who are not like fans of the other shows.
Yeah,
So
like I said,
especially if
we have
you're,
friends like that, so we'll be able to get some firsthand.
yeah, and even my dad as well. I spoke to my dad
Mm,
just before this episode, and he was talking about Ahsoka. So he's more aware of this than he was of Mandalorian. So
interesting.
if
Okay.
he watches this and enjoys it, that would be a very good, that would be a good metric, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for watching. But if you are like a big fan of Rebels, what do you think of this episode? And like the Clone Wars, or if you're not, and you're just kind of run of the mill Star Wars, just the films or whatever, if you've seen this,
Mm.
what made you check this out? Or are
Well,
you enjoying it with no context, sort of thing, of the characters?
as well, like, this is the first show that's kind of displayed a Jedi as the main character as well.
Precisely.
So that's
Which is
like maybe that's it. Well,
apart
obviously
from
Obi Wan, I
Obi-Wan,
suppose.
but
Yeah,
he's different,
but
I think.
in the sort of sequel era, you know.
He's also different
But
because
yeah,
even people with just knowledge of the films will know Obi-Wan, but
exactly.
people
It's
with knowledge of
cheating.
the films will
Yeah,
not know Ahsoka. Yeah.
cheating. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that we'll have our poll on Spotify or Q&A. You can ask us some questions, or if you're watching on YouTube, stick it in the comments what you thought of the first two episodes, and we'll reply to your comments. But yeah, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and yeah, that's it. We'll see you
That's
next
it.
week for episode 3, and
Oh,
hopefully it's another. It's a shame it's going to be short, but it is what it is. Hopefully it's a banger. I just want it to be good.
yeah,
I'm getting quite hyped for Ahsoka now. Actually, that we've talked about it. So
man.
yeah, yeah. So I might finish Rebels by the time this show finishes as well. So
Outstanding.
yes, but yes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. That'll be it.
Yeah.